The NFL regular season has wrapped up, and tonight we're going to react to Lions, Vikings. Detroit gets the big win, number one seed in the NFC. Thoughts on that? We'll take a look at the full playoff picture and schedule as the NFL has announced Super Wild Card Weekend, and a couple other news items. Tyreek Hill with some interesting comments. A couple of organizations announcing that they're bringing back their head coach and GM. So we'll get to all of that as Black Monday gets here tomorrow with more coaches expected to be fired. But before we get to all of that, subscribe to the channel because we're going to have all that and more covered, not only on tonight's show, but moving forward. Coaching news tomorrow. I'll have a playoff predictions video either tomorrow or Tuesday. We'll see how busy tomorrow is with the coaching carousel moves and whatnot. Playoffs around the corner. College football playoff semifinals this week. Busy week ahead here on 4 Verts. Join the family. It's free. Do not miss any of our content. We got you covered here on a daily basis. All right, Sunday Night Football. Game did not live up to the hype, which was disappointing, especially for Vikings fans. Detroit dominates as they win 31-9. Detroit pulled away in the second half. It was 10-6 at halftime, 17-9 late in the third quarter. But Sam Darnold just didn't have it. Didn't have it tonight. Could not make plays when they were there. Detroit did a good job of getting pressure on him. Thought it sped him up a little tonight, and I think that's something Minnesota is going to have to account for moving forward. They'll face the Rams in the wild card game, and if I'm LA, I'm looking at that tape for Aaron Glenn, and I'm blitzing a lot. And Darnold was airmailing passes. I mean, how many chances in the red zone early in that game, especially, did Minnesota just come away empty? I think they had 2 drives inside the 5 where they scored no points, went forward on 4th down, which I think was the right way to go if you're Kevin O'Connell. You're trying to win, but just did not work. Darnold, 18 for 41 for 166 yards. He was just off. More thoughts on him in a second. Jahmyr Gibbs, a special night for the Detroit's running back. He finishes with 4 touchdowns, 20 on the season, 3 rushing, 1 receiving. Rushed for $139. Also had 31 yards receiving and that other touchdown, so 170 all-purpose yards. Jared Goff, not his best game, 27-33, 231, a touchdown and 2 picks, but did enough, and they leaned on the run. And I thought Ben Johnson found some good answers and adjustments in the second half. They hit a huge little angle route touchdown to Gibbs, which they run a lot in the red zone on a 4th and 2, which made it 17-9, and that kind of opened the floodgates a little bit for Detroit's offense, especially considering, like I said, the Vikings offense just could not get it going. I think one thing about Minnesota moving forward, and look, I'm not going to overreact. Obviously, Sam Darnold's going to be a storyline. It's going to be, can he do it in this huge game coming up in the playoffs? Obviously, he didn't check that box tonight, but he's been very good this year. I would expect he bounces back and plays better. But listen, the lights get a little brighter now, right? He hasn't been in this spot before, so let's see how he handles it. One thing I will say, if you're Kevin O'Connell, you got to run the football more. I get you lost Aaron Jones early in this game, and can't remember if he came back or not, but he had 10 carries for 45 yards. It's 4.5 per. Cam Akers had 6 carries, 65 yards, had a 58-yard run. Like, run the football. This was still a 1-score game heading into the 4th quarter, and he just kept dropping Darnold back on a night when he didn't have it. I think O'Connell does get a little pass happy. And look, Darnold's answered the bell all year being a pass-first team. So, like, I get it, but sometimes you got to feel it out. And he just did not look comfortable tonight, and it's okay to hand the ball off sometimes. They dropped Darnold back 43 times. He threw it 41 times, got sacked twice, and they ran it 19 times. And, lazy box score hunters will say, well, Harrison, they got blown out. You have to throw. Like I said, that's a 17-9 game entering the 4th quarter. It was not out of hand until about the 8 or 9 minute mark, right? So I thought KOC got away from the run too much. Darnold and Jefferson just missed on a couple plays. Jefferson ran a little double move, and the red zone was wide open. Darnold airmailed him. There was another one on the back line of the end zone early in the first half where the ball was high, but you would expect Jefferson to catch it. Couldn't quite squeeze it. So they were just off. And look, that's okay. Obviously, it's a big game to be off in. On the road, number 1 seed on the line, but not like their season's over. I do think Detroit needed to win this and get home field advantage given their injury situation more than Minnesota. At the same time, Minnesota now enters the playoffs despite being 14-3. They go to face the Rams, where they lost earlier this season, and it's Sam Darnold versus Matthew Stafford. That's there's obviously a lot more that goes into it, but that's tough. This is Darnold's first playoff game, so I'm fascinated to see how he answers the bell. You got to give a shout out to Aaron Glenn. Yes, Darnold was off, but Glenn called a hell of a game. Blitzed a lot, timed him up at good times. I thought this secondary competed their ass off. Amik Robertson is getting better and better each week. They lost Terrion Arnold, another DB. He may have a serious leg injury. They just keep plugging away. Plug in Kendall Vildor. Brian Branch had a couple timely plays. They just compete. Anzalone helped them out tonight coming back from injury. Just next man up. That's been the story of the Lions season. They are decimated, and they are 15-2 and the number one seed in the NFC. So hell of a job by Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, who I thought, for the most of the game, I thought him and Flores, it was pretty even, and then Johnson got him as the game went on. But that was an interesting chess match. Obviously, both those guys are going to be head coaching candidates, which, by the way, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson can now interview for other head coaching vacancies this week virtually. Since the Lions got a first-round bye, they're allowed to interview with teams virtually this week. So keep an eye on that with Black Monday getting going tomorrow. So Detroit wins. They will have a first-round bye, which is big because I mentioned the Arnold thing. We'll see that injury. Kevin Zeitler, too, their really good guard, got nicked up at the end of the game. We'll see how serious that is, but that would be a very notable loss if for some reason he can't go come playoff time. All right, before we get to some other news items, let's take a look at the playoff picture and the playoff schedule here as we discuss the postseason. AFC first. It is set. Denver got the final spot. They hammered the Chiefs 38-0. Kansas City played like no key players. Carson Wentz did not look very good, but Chiefs obviously had home field clinch, so they're at home this weekend. We'll talk about the matchups and the times of those matchups here in just a second, but Bills rest their starters. They lose, but they had already gotten the number 2 seed. Baltimore winning on Saturday clinched them the 3 seed. Houston had already clinched the 4, but they won today as well. Chargers win, combined with the Steelers' loss on Saturday. LA leapfrogs Pittsburgh, which means they'll get to go to Houston, and I like that matchup a lot for the Chargers. Pittsburgh, losers of 4 straight, is the 6 seed, and then Denver is the 7 seed in the AFC. NFC here, obviously Lions clinch the number 1 seed. They'll have a bye. Philly's the 2 seed. They won with Tanner McKee today against the Giants. He actually looked pretty decent. Tampa gets the 3 seed. It was touch and go there for a while, but they finally pulled away from the Saints late in that one. And with the Rams resting their starters and losing to Seattle, they fell to the 4 seed and will host Minnesota, which I think is an interesting decision. I know Sean McVay, he doesn't play guys in preseasons. He's very conservative with that stuff. But, to me, I would rather play a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, even as good as he's been, than the Vikings. I thought that was bizarre, but that's the route they went. Vikings, 14-3. Got to be the most wins ever for a wild card team. They're the 5 seed. Washington, quietly 12 wins. They're the 6 seed. And then Green Bay losing to the Bears for the first time in over 6 years. They are the 7 seed. Now, as far as the matchups and when these games take place, here is how it looks so far. Now, it's not a true bracket. Remember, they reseed after the first round. So Detroit, for example, will get the lowest seed remaining. So if Green Bay were to win next against Philly, they would get Green Bay. If Washington were to win, they could get Washington. So we'll see how that plays out. But here is the actual schedule. I'll just read these off as we get ready for Wild Card Weekend. Starting on Saturday, it's 2 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, and then the Monday night game. Texans-Chargers kick it off Saturday, 4:30 Eastern on CBS in the 4-5 game in Houston. The primetime game on Saturday, which is on Amazon Prime Video, that'll be the 6-seeded Steelers at the 3rd-seeded Ravens. So both 2 AFC games on Saturday. Triple header Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS. 7th-seeded Broncos at the 2nd-seeded Bills. So 3 AFC games and then the 3 NFC games. Sunday afternoon, 4:30 Eastern on Fox. That'll be the Packers at the Eagles in the 7-2 game. Rematch of that week 1 matchup in Brazil, if you remember, which was a very entertaining game. And then Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, NBC, the Commanders at the Buccaneers. Pair of Heisman Trophy winners in Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield duking it out. And then the Monday night game, the 5th-seeded Vikings will go on the road to take on the Rams. So Minnesota at least gets an extra day here to prepare for that matchup. So you've got that going on as well. Okay, couple other news items, then we're going to get out of here. Tyreek Hill feels like he wants out because he said as much. He said, quote, "I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here." Went on Twitter, seemed to say his goodbyes to Miami. Obviously a frustrating year for the Dolphins. He talked about Tua missing time, which sucked. He said he's way too of a competitor to, quote, just be out here. Look, I think Tyreek's looking at this, and he's seeing his old team in the Chiefs win 2 Super Bowls the last 2 years, have a chance at a three-peat here, and he's hit the age of 30 now, and he's probably saying, look, if I'm going to win, it's got to be, and while still playing at a high level, it's got to be in the next couple of years because, you know, his speed and twitchiness, which is what makes him an all-time great, a Hall of Fame player, that's not going to be there when he's 34, 35, 36. So he probably looks at his career like, I got 2-3 really, really high-level years left, and in some regards, he kind of slipped a little this year. So keep an eye on that. That's going to be a big offseason topic. You know, I don't know what Tyreek Hill would fetch in a trade. I would say a day 2 pick. I don't think it would be a first. Maybe a second-round pick. Maybe it's something similar to the Devontae Adams trade where it's some kind of conditional pick that could turn into a 2, but we'll see. But he seemed to make his stance pretty clear. Speaking of the Dolphins, no major changes, which was a mild surprise. I'm not surprised Mike McDaniel's back, but GM Chris Grier, who's been there for a while, there was some chatter maybe he would get move into like a senior advisory role, but he is going to be back as GM. I know a lot of Dolphins fans aren't happy about that, but their status quo as far as their leadership goes, and we'll see where it goes with Tyreek. Obviously, an interesting year for Tua. Had the concussion, which caused him to miss 4 games, and then he missed the last 2 games with the hip issue. So injury concerns continue to plague him. They are kind of a team at a crossroads, it feels like, heading into the offseason, which kind of seemed why it would have made sense to at least change GMs, but they opted not to do that. And neither are the Colts. They're going to run it back with Shane Steichen and GM Chris Ballard. I like Steichen. I think he's a smart offensive guy. I didn't love his comments this past week about sometimes guys are late to meetings. I didn't think that was a smart play. But Ballard is just like, how many chances is this guy going to get? It's unreal. He's been there for 7 years, and every other team in the AFC South has won the division at least twice. Colts haven't won it at all. So it's pretty remarkable how mediocre he's been, and they continue to trot him out there. So you've got that. Obviously, we broke the news earlier. Go check out our video from a few hours ago. Gerard Mayo already been given the axe. Many believe that Mike Vrabel is going to be the guy there in New England. Obviously, they got to go through their search, comply with the Rooney Rule, all of that stuff. But connecting dots, seems like Robert Kraft it feels pretty good about his chances of getting Vrabel. To bring him in there, you've got Drake May. They got a lot of cap space and draft capital. Lost the number 1 pick today, but still picking very high. And obviously, they got to add pieces there. But Gerard Mayo just did not look the part this year as a head coach. And that staff in general just wasn't very good. So they pull the plug after 1 year. Colts, Dolphins running it back. Obviously, the other head coaching openings are the Bears, in addition to the Patriots earlier, Saints and Jets. Keep an eye, obviously, on teams this week. The Giants, the Cowboys, a couple other teams out there as well. Obviously, the Jags. It sounds like Peterson and Balky are going to be gone. Who am I missing? Let me see. I got my little doc here. Raiders with Antonio Pierce. Brian Callahan in Tennessee probably back. I think Josina Anderson reported GM Ran Carthen could be in trouble, so keep an eye on that. Seems like Kevin Stefanski's back. So I would say 2 to 4 more head coaching jobs open up, and then, I don't know, 1 to 3 more GM jobs. We'll see. But Black Monday tomorrow in the NFL, and we are going to be here to cover it all. So be sure to subscribe to 4 Verts. My name is Harrison Graham. We got you guys covered. NFL college football, daily content, no time like the present. Subscribe and join us on a daily basis.